Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's you, Jamie. Don't be alarmed, but I think there's a guy following you. Maybe we should get that guard dog we talked about? Nothing too scary. Maybe like a Bichon with an attitude? You know, Progressive's collision insurance covers injured dogs and cats at no extra cost, so... Wait, the guy stood up when I stood up. He's on the phone. He's looking right at me. Oh, wait, it's just my reflection. Don't tell anyone about this.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Pet coverage not available in New Hampshire and North Carolina.
Guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report.
Your guest is here.
Okay.
Well, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You go to emailrevealer.com, you get an autographed copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. Also, if you think your wife, your girlfriend, your spouse is cheating on you, check out our online infidelity investigation. You give us their email address, we trace it back to online dating websites, and we catch them cheating online. Now, got a big show today, big guest. This is probably the happiest I've ever been about a guest in my life. All the guests I've had and all the history of the Opperman Report, this is the happiest I've been so far. Now, if you're sitting at home and it's Saturday night, 5 p.m., you still got time. You can put your shoes on, put your drink down. You can run over to Darris Theater at 615 Main Street in Boonton, New Jersey, and you can catch Jackie the Joke Man Martling, okay? And he's going to be with Rich Hathaway, Harkaway. And we have today a special guest, Jackie the Joke Man Martling. Jackie, are you there?
Hey, what's up? What is that address? I think my wife's cheating on me.
Yeah, well, you give me your email address and I'll find out. Okay.
Well, I'm not even married anymore. I'm just so paranoid that my wife's cheating on me even if I'm not married.
You're not married, huh?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for talking to me here.
No, I'm doing great, man. I'm so happy to have you on the show. I'm a huge fan. Tell me, Jackie, you got a new book out, right? Jackie the Joke Man.
My book is coming out October 24th. Believe it or not, it is selling through the roof in pre-sales. Anybody wants to order it, it's at JackieTheJokeman.com. That's one word, JackieTheJokeman.com. The Amazon page pops right up. And it's great because people are buying. So I heard a couple of people say, listen, I bought a dozen of them because all my family and friends are all fans. So I'll just get you to autograph them, and it's a perfect Christmas present. It's easy to wrap, and it's not that expensive. It's very special, you know, and I guess it's good for the Jewish people, too. So let's just say holiday, and let's not say Christmas. Jesus, what am I doing?
Hey, you know what I was thinking? I was looking at your bio on Wikipedia and stuff like that, like all the old stuff, like hot dogs and donuts. Is there a way to get all that stuff bundled in one big package for?
All that stuff is bundled. You can get the entire 6-CD thing for $20 at Oleo Records. It's online, oleorecords.com. All 6 CDs. They're like 78 minutes times 6. So it's like ridiculous. Like 50 hours of dirty jokes, all completely different. And plus they threw in my insults from my insult mirror. And I think the kids it's a whole big package. Oh, and you get a copy of my crazy theme song from my radio show, Jackie's Joke Hunt. Yeah, so anybody you could find it. The link, I think it's maybe 6 CD special or whatever. But if you go to Oleo Records, it comes right up.
Okay, I'll find the link. I'll put it on my Facebook page. Now, in this new book, The Joke Man Bow to Stern, by the way, great nautical title. I love it. Okay, brilliant. Now, what are we going to find in there?
Well, it's about 30 or 40% is about me getting started, finding my way into comedy and finding my way to the Howard Stern show, and then the 60 or 70% is me on the show. All different stuff that happened all along. And it's like a timeline, so it'll be fun for people because, they'll say, oh, I remember where I was when they were in Philadelphia at the rally, and I remember where I was on the Channel 9 show, and I remember where I was, when the movie got made. So it's a chronological trip through everybody's life that was a listener. You know what I mean? So it's nice jumping off places for people.
Yeah, I was a listener. I told you that. I was listening to WNBC, and even before that, I used to call the old dial-a joke when I was a kid back in New York. That was a big deal.
Where are you from?
I'm from Staten Island. Well, from the Bronx originally, and then Staten Island.
So you know about 922 wine from way, way long ago.
We used to put that number down, you know, when you want to give a fake number to someone, you'd put down dial-a-joke.
That's been going uninterrupted for 38 years. If you dial 516-922-WINE right now, it'll be just like it's 1979 all over again, believe it or not.
Yeah, and when I first heard you on the Stern Show, I recognized the voice because it was that crazy cackling voice, you know, telling these jokes, you know, and I heard you on the show. How'd you get the name Joke Man?
That's one of the great stories in the book. I had the dial-a-joke going, and I got a call one day from Rick Dees in Los Angeles, who had heard of my dial-a-joke, but as my dial-a-joke, I kept making it dirtier and dirtier, and he called up one day and said, listen, I've been playing your dial-a-joke on the air. Speaking of phony phone numbers, he was telling his listeners, hey, I got Tom Selleck's home phone number. He'd say 516-922-9463, and then my phone lines would explode. I didn't know it, you know, and he said, but the jokes have gotten too dirty. Can you do some clean jokes for me? So I did a bunch of clean jokes for him, and he decided, let's call you Jackie the Joke Man Martling, the guy from New York that knows all the jokes. And I said, well, that fits.
Oh,
it freaks people out when they find out it's Rick Dees from California that named me the Joke Man. It's a riot, you know.
Now, the thing is, with the dial-a-joke, though, do you make any money from that? And that's all free, right?
I never made a penny. It's cost me a fortune for 38 years. But it's all incoming calls, so it's not, you know, it's not crazy money, but it's done so much for me over the years. It's not even you can't even account at all what it's done, you know. And people love it. I just like somebody coming up and saying, hey, I've been a fan since the 80s. I used to call 922-WINE.
Yeah.
And I say, take out your cell phone and dial it. And they dial it, and they just cannot believe it, you know. And I get a kick out of that because I'm nuts.
Yeah, you're a little nuts. Now, what do? You update it every day? You just sit home and you're
No, I update it when I have a new gig, you know. Like,
okay.
You know, maybe every 2 weeks, sometimes once a week, sometimes once a month. But in the old days, it was changed every day, 7 days a week, without fail.
Yeah.
I mean, for 7 years. Me and my wife, Nancy, we were just, that was an obsession. We just did it, and it was so great. We had so many people. At one point, we're getting way over 5,000 calls a day from all over the world. It was unbelievable.
Was there ever a time when you could actually hear the phone ringing?
Well, what it was, we had 10 answering machines lined up. So, yeah, if I had the phones on ring, you know, you could hear the answering machines click on. You know, and they just clicked on, and they were 1-minute answering machines, and it was a rollover line, so the 10th machine didn't go off unless all other 9 were engaged, and the 10th machine went off all the time. It was just click, click, click. It was spectacular. It really was something else. I wish I had video of the stupid thing happening, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and nowadays everybody got their cell phones out with their video. But that's right. I didn't think of that. You had to have rollover, so you had to have like 10 lines. You had to pay for each one of those lines. Yeah, that's a fortune.
Yeah, you know, so if the first one's busy, the second one rings, and vice versa, and all the way down to number 10, you know. It was great.
Okay, now you grew up in Long Island, right?
I grew up in East Norwich, Long Island, which is just south of Oyster Bay.
Oh.
And now I live in Bayville on Long Island Sound, which is just north of Oyster Bay.
Okay, now and you're 69 years old, right?
Yes, sir.
So now, growing up down there around Oyster Bay as a kid, that had to be like all woods and stuff, right? That wasn't a really populated area, was it?
No, you know, it wasn't that. It was rural, but it wasn't totally rural. Yeah. You know, it wasn't like living out in the middle of nowhere. You know, it was all little towns, but it was, you know, there was a real lot of huge mansions and estates around here. You know, and then with the little hamlets. And then slowly but surely, all the subdivisions and developments filled everything in. But everything, you know, there were towns, you know, spotted around all over. You know, since I was a kid. You know.
And what did your parents do? Did your parents have money?
Jesus. You know, it's funny. People say, oh, you're from the North Shore of Long Island. He was a rich kid.
Yeah.
But, you know, the wealthiest people in the world are from the North Shore of Long Island, but people had to do stuff for them. You know, my grandfather, not my great-great-great-great, my grandfather was a blacksmith.
Wow.
And his blacksmith barn was literally on our property when I was growing up. You know, he died in the 40s. But the blacksmith barn was still there, you know. Like, I mean, that's my father's father. That's not going back far, you know. He was a blacksmith. His father was a blacksmith. His father was, you know, my family's been here forever, you know. My father worked for the highway because my great uncle was a huge local politician. I mean, you know, a national politician. The whole first chapter of my book addresses whether or not I'm a Roosevelt. Theoretically, I'm illegitimately connected to Theodore Roosevelt. That's the whole first chapter of my book, and people are going wild. They're really going crazy reading it because it's fun.
Yeah,
and there's a real good chance it's the truth.
Well, they got DNA now. You can check that out.
Well, yeah, if you get a Roosevelt to give you the DNA, but then nobody wants to give it to me because they know damn well it's true, you know.
We have to go there and dig it up. We have to dig it up the corpse there.
We're trying to flush them out is what we're trying to do.
Now, so if your grandfather was a blacksmith, could you shoe a horse if you had to?
Yeah, I could shoe, go away. You know, no, are you kidding? I never was a good rider because I'm still not convinced that they know that we're in charge. You know.
Yeah, I could never ride a horse. I'd never get on a horse. Now I picture you as a kid, right? Like our gang, like the Little Rascals, like a bunch of little kids running around with no supervision. Am I correct?
That's exactly. You know, and I was from a very small town, so the gang was, you know, varied ages. You know, there's a couple of great pictures of my whole gang. I'll send you a picture of my gang that is, you just couldn't even make it up. It literally looks like a snapshot of the Little Rascals, you know, because this guy's 5'8" and this guy's 4'1", and, you know, it really was incredible living in the suburbs. They weren't even really the suburbs. It was a little hamlet. You know, it wasn't an outgrowth of the city yet, you know, and we were just a small gang of kids, and we ran wild, and, you know, everybody's houses were always open, and you called your parents, you know, you called your neighbors by their first names, the parents by their first names, you know. It was just so idyllic, like anything, you know, like the whole Born at the Right Time. We had no idea how wonderfully safe and incredible our lives were. You know, because we didn't know any better. But it was just so great, you know?
Yeah, mine was the same way. I'm 55 now, and in the Bronx, it was the same thing. Kids, all different ages. You played with the whole neighborhood. Everybody knew each other. In Staten Island, we had the woods and the creek and go fishing every day, ride our bikes.
You come home when the 6 o'clock whistle blows, you go home. You know, when it gets dark, you go home, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. And now you never had any kids, right?
No, we tried, and that's a whole other thing in the book too. You know, we couldn't do that, and it drove a little bit of a spike into our marriage, and it was really hard. You know, but me and Nancy were two crazy people, so we lasted 20 years, which is pretty good. You know, she's still my neighbor. My ex-wife lives 2 doors away, and I double date with her and her boyfriend, believe it or not. So.
Well, you always seem to have that kind of open, free-spirited kind of, you know, thing going on.
Yeah, well, she's great. My ex-wife was one of my best friends before we started working together, and that caused us to interbreed. You know, it was great fun. You know.
Now, when you were a kid growing up, did you think you were going to be a comedian?
No, I had no intention of doing anything. I just told jokes because people, you know, I just learned jokes and loved telling them because I love making people laugh forever. But the idea of being a comedian was the furthest thing from my mind. It wasn't even, it's not even like something I considered and rejected. I mean, it was just something, you couldn't choose to be a comedian. I always thought that was like, you know, people got anointed, you know, and I just told jokes, and then I learned guitar because I figured it'd make it easier to get girls, you know, like everybody else, and I started playing guitar, and I just kept telling jokes, and then when I realized at the ripe old age of 31 that I was never going to make a nickel with music, and I knew I wasn't going to get a job, I said, well, let me try telling my stupid jokes on stage, and it worked big time, and everybody loved it, and they still do. So, you know, it just kind of happened. And I had no intention of ever being on the radio, but I sent my dirty joke albums to Howard Stern, and he called me up. You know, and I stumbled in there, and we wound up being really, really good for each other. You know, it's all laid out in the book. So great. If you connect the dots backwards, it looks like I knew exactly what I was doing, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was just one foot in front of the other, and I was a hippie with a ponytail and I smoked pot and drank a lot, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, you know?
But you never told a joke on stage till you were 31 years old.
Huh?
You never told a joke on stage until you were 30.
No, I told jokes in my bands in high school, and in my band in college, the guys used to get mad because I told jokes. And then I started playing my guitar and playing my songs and telling jokes by myself. But as far as actually getting on stage and telling jokes and getting paid for it, I didn't do that till I was 31, 1979. You know, that's when I changed from playing the guitar and telling jokes to telling jokes and playing the guitar.
Right.
You know, where I told jokes mainly and then played the guitar a little at the end, as opposed to vice versa.
Now, you talk about smoking pot, and one of the emails you sent me, you said that every day at 4:20 you still tweet out jokes on Twitter. Yeah,
you know, it's funny. Sometimes I smoke a lot of pot, and sometimes I don't. You know, I haven't smoked pot in about 3 or 4 months now. Sometimes I stop for a while. But 420 International Marijuana Time is great. Somebody wrote the other day, boy, I must be on Twitter too much if I know by seeing Jackie's jokes that I know it's 420 in the afternoon, you know. But I just chose that as a time, and I launch jokes every day at 420. And if you follow me at Jackie Martling, you know, JackieMartling, I tweet a joke every day.
And how old were you when you
Today's
started?
joke's great. Today I wrote that to sum up what's going on in the world, Trump doesn't want anybody on their knees, and Harvey Weinstein wants everybody on their knees.
That's great, man.
Is that good or what?
That's great. That's perfect, man. That's brilliant.
The entire week.
Yeah, there's something about the comedic mind. It's genius in some ways, you know?
It's better than that.
Yeah. Hey, how old were you when you started smoking pot?
You know, it's so funny, because once in a while I'd ask somebody, I'd meet somebody young or something, and or just in the radio and say, hey, you want to get stoned? And they go, oh, no, I quit when I was 19, or I quit when I was 21. And it's so funny, because with me, it wasn't how old were you when you smoked pot. Back in my era, it was more like, where were you in 1967? You know, I didn't smoke my first joint until like between freshman and sophomore year of college.
Oh, really?
But that was 1967. You know, like in 1966, nobody had smoked pot. And by 1967, a lot of people had smoked pot. You know, it was that changeover era. So I was probably, I guess, 19 or 20 years old. I'm not sure.
But the pot was so different back in those days. You know what I mean? That dirt Colombian weed.
It was, you know, it was just a social thing. You know, I remember we got our first bag of pot from the University of Michigan and came up and hid it in the music room in the dormitory in Snyder Hall, and we sneaked down there and roll a joint, and it was sticks and stems and leaves. It was garbage, you know. Nowadays, you take a hit of pot, and it's like you're on the moon, you know.
Yeah. Tell me, but yeah, I quit many years ago myself, but I'm considering going back and trying it again.
I quit drinking in 2001, so I haven't had a drink in, you know, over 16 years. So like I have a toke here and there, you know. People say, "Oh, you're not sober if you still smoke pot." I'm like, what do I care? You know, I'm trying to get through each day. Leave me alone, you know.
So what made you quit drinking?
It was time. You know, for the last however many years, I've been drinking every day, almost every day, for so long. Like, I knew back in the early 70s that at some point I had to quit. You know, and it just always ate in the back of your mind. And then when I quit the show, or wound up off the show, I realized that, you know, I had way too much free time. And I couldn't wait for 5 o'clock to roll around every day. And I figured the only thing to do is make it so it's never 5 o'clock. So I just quit. I just stopped, you know. You know, I got divorced. I left my job, quit drinking, got divorced, and moved into a house by myself all at the same time. And it was a little bit of a rocky road, but it made me the magnificent person I am today.
Well, you know what? I saw a picture. If you go to JackieTheJokeMan.com, you see a picture of Jackie right now. The guy looks like a model. You got your shirt off and you're in a...
Man, but I do not look bad. You know, it's funny. I'm 69, but I tell everybody I'm 70. Because if I say I'm 69, then I got to spend the next 5 minutes explaining that I'm not making a dick joke that I'm really 69, you know.
So what do? You work out? Because you look great.
No, I I swim every day. It's in the middle of October, but I'm still swimming. I wake up in the morning. First thing I did today is take a long, long swim. And my girlfriend and I have breakfast. She goes off to work. I sit here and kick the cats. I load some jokes up. I've been doing a real lot of interviews for my book. The response to the book is great. I've been doing, a lot of on-air, a lot of podcasts. I did, Gilbert Gottfried's podcast. I'm going on with Anthony and Artie Lang, and the Bennington show on Sirius XM, and Fugelsang show on Sirius XM, and I go on with Jim Kerr on 104.3 in the morning in New York, and I go on with WBAB on Long Island. Yesterday I did Joe Piscopo's morning drive show. I'm seeing all these old timers from way back, and we're just having so much fun, and they're so excited about the book because I've been around a long time. I met a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you. Don't worry. But that's another thing because you work. Because you sent me some stuff where I found these book signing gigs. You're working every day. 6 p.m. Monday, October 23rd at Bookends in Ridgewood, New Jersey. 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 24th, Huntington, Long Island at the Book Review. Oh, every day.
That's a big one. All of Long Island's going to be there. I can't wait for that. That's and the Ridgewood, New Jersey Bookends is a really popular place. That's one of those stops that everybody makes. So these are going to be great book signings. Keep going. Don't let me stop you.
7 p.m. Thursday, October 26th, Barnes & Noble on 86th Street in Manhattan. Where my grandmother used to live, by the way, guys, on 86th Street, okay? Probably the same block.
It's so funny because I hadn't been to the Upper East Side except sporadically for 3 decades. Now I'm there all the time because now the 2nd Avenue subway, the Q train goes right up there. It's like amazing. It stops within a block of the comic strip on 2nd Avenue. It's like a brand new train station, a subway station with a big old escalator, and it's clean, and you feel like you're in Washington, D.C. I think, God, you go New York, it's great. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can get to that book signing,
Hey, so when you go around New York, you take the subway and stuff?
Oh, I always travel subway, yeah.
Now people recognize you?
It's so funny. Sometimes 5 people on the subway know who I am, and other times I'll walk around all day and nobody will have any idea, It's very hit and miss with who knows who I am,
And what's the most annoying joke that they bother you with?
Nothing's annoying. People say F Jackie and they say F Timmy, but all that stuff is just, at this point, it's just, just love. It annoys me when they call me cheap because my friends always would laugh at that because I'm the most generous guy in the world. And the fact that Howard had me pegged to be cheap, people come up to me in a bar and say, "You want me to buy you a drink?" I know you're not going to buy me one, you cheap bastard. And it's just so funny. And my friends are like, "Where the hell did they ever get that?" I said, "Well, Howard knew that was a button that would make me crazy, so he told everybody I was cheap,
And how ironic.
It's so funny because that just shows how in tune with the show they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, listen, I think everybody has a story about listening to the Howard Stern show in their car and sitting in their car for a half hour before going into the office or going into the car because you wanted to hear the rest of it, laughing out loud.
Yeah, everybody, I just heard they were interviewing, my friend Ian Carr and IKA Collective are doing a documentary on me, and they're going around talking to everybody. And I just saw some of the footage yesterday, and he was interviewing Anthony Cumia from Opie and Anthony, and he was just saying how they'd sit on the construction site in the early 90s, and nobody would do a thing until the show was over, which is so flattering, just great.
Yeah, I totally believe it. And at that period of time with Billy West and the Jackie Puppet, in my office in New York, I had an employee, this little girl, Christy, and I would do the Jackie Puppet voice all day long, tormenting this girl as her voice, making believe it was her. Now, that's got to be that period of time.
That's one of those, that's one of those voices that everybody can do. You know what I mean? So everybody gets a kick out of it. Everybody says that I do it the worst. Which is so fun. Billy West is still a dear friend. He's a great guy, and he's all over the place. And they interviewed him for the documentary, and he's just so kind to me,
Hey, just think of the irony that Howard portrayed you as this cheapskate, right? And he's the one that didn't want to pay you. You know what I mean?
Please Don't even get me started. Everybody's like, well, it was only a little bit of money to you. I'm like, well, if it's only a little bit of money to me, how little is it to them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was all crazy. It's all fine, you know.
But also, too, like, in a way, like, looking back, don't you think, you know what, man, I would have done it for free?
Yeah, if I would have done it for free, if I still would have wound up sitting in the house I'm sitting in. I mean, I live in an incredible home on Long Island Sound. It's not a mansion. You know, I live in a regular, nice house, but it's on the water with a nice piece of property, which just doesn't happen in this area on the water. And I'm just the luckiest guy in the world. And if I hadn't fought for the money that I fought for, I would have never gotten to where I got this house. But did I love every second of it? I really did. I enjoyed every second. I had no complaints about the show or anything that went on in the air or the ball breaking. I mean, some of the crap he said to me about me, I wrote. I mean, you know, it was one for all for one. But I just wanted them to share the money a little more, you know. And you know what? It's business. Like, you think you're worth one thing and somebody else thinks you're worth something different. You know, that's why there's negotiations. You know, so there's no hard feelings anywhere. But I don't regret a thing. I don't regret leaving, but I don't regret hanging in there for so. I mean, I was so tired for so long. I mean, you know, because I have no self-discipline. I had the self-discipline to be in that chair at 6 in the morning, but I didn't have the self-discipline to, you know, to get in bed and get a good night's sleep. You know, I was running wild for 15 years, you know.
And how often would you show up without sleeping all night?
No, not that often. No. I maybe misquoted there, but, you know, I wouldn't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
You know, there were times I showed up with, you know, half-hour sleep if I was out really late after a gig and drinking. I mean, I didn't just go out drinking, but if I had a show, I would drink after a show like crazy, you know, so. You know, and it was always fun. You know, sometimes I'd be so hungover, and we'd get done with the show, and I'd look at the big stack of notes that I had written for Howard, and I'd be like, who the hell wrote those? It's hysterical.
Now, did you ever drink or smoke during the show?
No, never. We did a couple shows, like I think 2 times or maybe a few more, where we called it the drinking show. We actually drank on the air.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was fun. I remember one time we did a drinking show. I think I drank about 10 Bloody Marys, you know. And it was so funny because I remember Stuttering John was sitting there talking to Howard, and his Bob Dylan's son, Jacob Dylan, was sitting there. And John was, you know, mumbling and stumbling and spilling his beer on Jacob Dylan. It was so funny. And while Jacob's talking to Howard, I was doing my Bob Dylan impression. Way in the back, I was going, Jacob, mow the lawn. You're not going to get your allowance, Jacob, unless you mow the lawn. Oh, God. Now, you know me, I was peeing my pants laughing. And John was spilling beer on him, so I guess that's why we didn't drink a lot during the show.
Hey, now what about those crazy parties when you would go to Scores and stuff like that? Would Nancy ever get jealous?
No, she really didn't care. And the funny thing is that sometimes I get booked out of town, and sometimes I get booked in Las Vegas. And in those days, there were no direct flights to Las Vegas, so I had to go to America West and go to, you know, there were direct flights in the morning, but not after we get off work. So I had to fly to Phoenix and then to Las Vegas, so it was tough. And so I'd get a flight that was like at noon or 1 o'clock to go to do my gig in Las Vegas, and then all of a sudden they'd have a Scores party, and I wouldn't be able to go to the Scores party because I had to get to the plane, and then Howard tell everybody, oh, Nancy booked a gig for Jackie, so we wouldn't be able to go to the Scores party. When meanwhile it had been booked months in advance. It was so funny, you know. It was all theater. You know, She knew I could care less about hookers. Look, if I wanted to chase a girl and get laid, I could do that without, you know, having some stripper do it. You know, and you know, those parties were really fun, but they were more fun for the bonding than the women. You know, like Billy West and me and Dominic and Stuttering John and who, you know, Chuck Norris. We had a whole cast of characters that would come along, and we'd have so much fun. You know, we'd bring the midgets. We'd bring the little people from the Radio City Music Hall show. Oh, just the times were great.
Do you have any home movies of that stuff?
No.
You know? Oh, man, just think if it would have going on today. Everybody has those iPhones that would be taking videos all the time, you know?
Jesus Christ, that's so funny. The funny thing is nothing really went on. I would love to tell you it did, but it wasn't like somebody said, hey, I'm going in the back room with this girl. I mean, everybody, we just all got massages and got lap dances and laughed our asses off, and it couldn't have been more fun, But it was not a sex orgy,
Yeah, I had the guy on the show, the guy who wrote that book recently. He became an informant. He owned stores. He became an informant. The gay guy. He was gay, one of the owners.
I don't even know which guy that is.
I don't remember his name either, but it was a good guess. But now, what about that story about Howard gave a Mercedes to one of the dancers?
Gave a what?
A Mercedes. He gave a car to one of the dancers.
I certainly never heard that story.
It was on page 6.
Oh, please. I've been off the show for 16 years.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't listen to the show when I was on it. I have no idea what the hell's going on over there.
No, this is during that time. This is during the period when you were there.
I do not remember that story. I would remember that story, but I'll tell you right now, he didn't give no Mercedes. I don't think he gave his wife a Mercedes. I don't think he'd even give himself a Mercedes, for Christ's sake.
Well, maybe not in those days, but just recently he gave a car to Robin, right? How come he's so generous with Robin, but not with anybody else?
Yeah, please. Look who you're asking. I know.
That's right. I guess if you knew, right? No.
Yeah, I mean, not that she doesn't deserve a car, but, it was funny because in the old days, at Christmas time, Robin would do a story, and she'd go like, oh, look at this, Howard. All of Oprah Winfrey's producers woke up, and there was a new car in each of their driveways. And he'd go, next story, Robin, next story. Look at this. Drew Carey took his whole staff to Hawaii for a month. Next story, Robin, next story.
Hey, you mentioned Stutterin' John, right? Are you still in touch with Stutterin' John?
Oh, yeah, he's a good character. I got my joke book. I got my autobiography coming out, and I think his is coming out in about a year. And, he's a good egg. He's crazy. We have our little feuds, and we break balls. But he moved to Bayville. He lived a couple blocks from me for a couple of years. He moved out here. His wife wanted to come to Long Island. He said, I'll come to Long Island if we can live near Martling, So our wives and us went away together and skied, and, he's a good egg. He's a good egg. He's out in California. He's in beautiful Los Angeles.
Now, what about Artie Lang wrote the foreword for the book?
Yeah, he's a real good guy. Me and him have become kind of pals. It's so funny because people say, oh, it's so great you and Artie are getting along again. And that's crazy because we never didn't get along. He came on the Stern Show like 8 or 9 months after I left. There was no crossover whatsoever, But people just were under the impression that, he bumped me out of the chair or something like that. No, he's a real good egg and a real funny comedian, and and he's in a great new show called Crashing on HBO. That's really great. And I'm really thrilled for the guy. Hey, speaking of which, I'm in a sitcom pilot that's kicking ass. It's called Shoot Me Nicely. And if you go to shootmenicely.com, it's spelled just like it sounds, shootmenicely.com, the trailer's there, and it's a sitcom pilot, but it also works as a short film. And we just had the greatest thing happen to us. It's written and directed by Elias Fagiano, who's a really talented, really good friend. Years ago, he said, Jackie, I'm going to write a pilot, and I'm going to put a role in it for you. And he did it, and I'm in it. I play a landlord. But we got Linda Hamilton in our pilot, and she loves the show, and she's staying with the show, and it was just announced that Linda Hamilton, James Cameron, and Arnold Schwarzenegger are going to do a sequel to The Terminator. So how much that is going to help our sitcom so much. I just, what are the odds of that ever happening? That's so great,
And where do you think this will come out? Like Netflix, HBO?
I don't know yet. He's had some offers, but he wants to make sure he gets a good deal because it's going to be a great sitcom. It's not going to be, it's going to be a little spicy, so it's definitely going to be on cable, Netflix or Showtime or something like that.
Ah, man, that'd be great to have you back every week, man. That would be really a blessing.
I love it. What's really fun is I did the audio version of my book, and the guys at Audible.com in Newark, they just loved it. They were all in there while I was recording it, and they said of all the autobiographies that have been read by the actual author, they said mine was by far the most entertaining, the funniest, the most interesting, and they really think I'm going to sell a gazillion. And they said, just think how many people used to love hearing you on the radio, and here they can hear a whole book's worth of your ridiculous stories without Howard stopping you, you know. So I'm hoping the audiobook's going to sell like crazy, too. Everything's coming out October 24th. You know, Kindle, audiobook on Audible, and the Post Hill Press hardcover.
Hey, I'll start plugging that.
I got a couple copies in the mail the other day, and oh, man, I've been fighting for this book for, for 40 years, and all of a sudden I got my book. I'm just thrilled, man.
Oh, what do you mean? You had trouble getting the book published?
Yeah, no. I had so many deals fall through, because after I got off the show, I didn't pursue it because, I didn't want to just jump on that, and I should have, so I waited until it was too late, and now it's, it's not too late, though. I was wondering how people are going to respond, and most people are excited as hell. Of course, I occasionally get the, what are you out of money, and you got to beat up Howard now to make some money, but, it's not a trash book, it celebrates the show, it doesn't rankle the show,
And what does Artie Lang have to say in the book?
He wrote the foreword, and it's just, it's so flattering. It's just really nice. He explains how he got introduced to me and the show, and it's, I don't want to give the whole thing away. It's just really, really good. And he read the foreword. So the foreword of the audio version has Artie.
Oh, great.
Artie's voice doing the opening. So it's just like, it's really a pretty decent thing right along the way, like Artie and me in the audio version, and then the hardcover with a bunch of crazy pictures, and according to everybody's buying 100 books. So, if I sell any at all, I'll get to do a second one, and I got the second book, all believe it or not, completely written already, because I took everything I had written and I had to choose this book, and it was Sophie's choice. There was so much that just didn't make it into the book. There just isn't room. I have another 300 pages, and I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, it's in my computer. I could do volume 2 tomorrow. So if I sell a few books, I'll get to do the second version.
Well, I got an Audible, one of those affiliate accounts, so I'll be promoting this thing.
Great! Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that, man. Anything is appreciated.
Yeah. Hey, now what about because, by the way, Artie was a fan of the show before he came on the show. So, I can't see him having a problem with you whatsoever.
No, never.
Yeah. Now, what about during that period of time, a certain character in New York named Donald Trump used to call in all the time. Now,
he came on all the time. He's a piece of crap. He's a walking, talking piece of crap. He used to come on the show, and he just... he didn't even, I don't think he even knew Howard was in the room, It's just a pompous piece of dirt as far as I was concerned, and that's still what I think, I just hope he doesn't get us blown up.
Did you vote for him? You didn't vote.
What?
Did you vote for him?
Oh, of course I did. No, I didn't vote for him. Are you kidding?
Were you a Bernie guy?
There's people down by the post office sitting there with Trump posters, and I walk by every day and, and curse them out,
Were you a Bernie guy?
No, not really. My ex-wife was a Bernie guy. I like Hillary, and I just, it's the whole thing is a sewer.
Yeah.
It's like having a non-smoking section on an airplane. Politics is a sewer. And Bernie's dreams might have kept Hillary out of the White House. I mean, who the hell knew? I don't know enough about anything. That thing about Trump doesn't want you on your knees and Weinstein does? That's about as political as I get. You know what I mean?
Well, what can you tell us about Trump personally, like when you would meet him?
I know nothing about him except my theory is that he knows absolutely nothing about women. Because he went to military school and didn't hang around with anybody. Then he married a woman off the boat. And then he dumped her for a model. And then it was all over the New York press how great he was in bed, but those were called in by his publicist, and it turned out the publicist was him. And then he dumped her and took another girl off the boat. And then he got caught talking to Billy Bush on the bus, and the things he said are not things that guys, I know, I've been in show business my whole life, and I know how guys talk about women, and I know how they can be, rude and crude, but there's also a dialect. I know every horny guy in America, and out of all the horny guys, I don't know one guy that ever walked up to a girl and just grabbed her crotch. Guys don't do that. That is no way to fool. That's no fun or no pleasure for you, her, or anybody. And for him to say, yeah, I just go up and grab him by the crotch, that's like a baseball player saying, yeah, I just walk out and aim at the goalposts. It's like, no, it's baseball. There's no goalposts. I mean, it's that inaccurate. He's a moron. He's a posing moron. He wants everybody to think that he's a pussy hound, and meanwhile, he probably needs a roadmap to get to it, And I really mean that. I mean, he's an idiot.
When you say it, that it's so true, because, we're both, you hang around guys, bars and stuff, and you talk about girls, but you don't talk about, like, molesting people or, like, you know what I mean? It's...
I just walk up to him and start kissing him?
Yeah.
Every horny musician in America, and I don't know one guy that would walk up to a girl in a bar and just start kissing her. He might walk up and say, hey, baby, how you doing? Or even go and say, hey, baby, you want to go out to my car? But nobody walks up to a girl and starts kissing her. That's either stupid or a lie. It just shows that he doesn't, it's like a fifth grader not knowing what to do. I can't believe more people didn't call him on that. People saying, oh, he's so rude and he's a molester and he's a chauvinist. And I'm like, no, he's an idiot. He's lying. Like a guy bragging about robbing a bank. He didn't do it, or if he did it, it's if he walked up to a girl and grabbed her crotch, I'm sure she'd look at him like, what planet are you from? Not how rude are you or how horny are you, more like what planet are you from? It's so funny because we're talking about this and I got my hand on my own crotch.
I love you, man. Now, when he would come into the studio, though, it was just like arrogance. It was just so arrogant. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Would he come alone, or would he bring people with him?
Worry about anything his whole life,
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's a miserable bastard. So.
Would he come alone, or would he bring people with him?
As far as I know, I think he always came alone, but he might have had somebody with him out in the studio. But as far as I remember, he was always alone,
In your wildest imagination, did you ever dream he would be president someday?
Oh my God! I wouldn't even let myself worry about that. You know what I mean? I mean, in my mind, there's no way that our country could ever be that stupid. That's what I thought. I still can't believe it, to tell you the truth.
And when you see him now, do you think he's like totally over his head?
Oh, Christ! Yeah. Come on. He has no clue.
Yeah.
He does not have a clue. I really, I'm not trying to be some political jerk here or some crazy liberal. I really think he has no idea what he's doing. And I think a real lot of people know that he doesn't know what he's doing, and they're afraid to say anything because he doesn't. You screw him over or go against him, he doesn't forget. So who knows? Who knows?
And you knew him. You knew him.
Trips in the shower and breaks his neck. That's the only thing we can win.
You knew him back when he was kind of sharp too. Like his mind was a little quicker back in those days. If you look at him now compared to the debates, it's a different guy. His mind was quicker during the debates than now.
No, I don't watch close enough to even know.
Okay.
Because he just there's so much garbage up there. He's like the typical guy that's got to remember which lie he told last. Mark Twain had a famous quote. He said, "If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything," which is astute. That means if you always tell the truth. Like people always ask me about leaving the Stern Show, and I'll start talking about it, and they'll go, "Well, that's what you said 15 years ago." I say, "Well, of course that's what I said 15 years ago, because that's what happened." I don't alter my story as time goes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, now what about, though, because back in those days, that's when Mike Tyson was still with Robin Givens. And what do you know about those stories about possibly Stern dating Givens? Those are true, right?
Who knows?
You don't know.
I don't know. I think he went on some dates with her, but, as far as I know, Mike Tyson wasn't in the car with him.
What do you know? What do you know about Trump?
It's so funny because so many people along the years would accidentally say Robin Givens instead of Robin Quivers.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's supposedly dating Robin Givens. It's just so funny,
Oh, really? So you don't? I'm pretty sure it's in the book. I think Robin Givens admits it. And what do you know about Trump dating Robin Givens?
No, but he wasn't. He never cheated on his wife. If he went out with her, it was a date.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with dating. I mean, if they went out, it's certainly something that needed to be hidden. I don't think. I just don't remember.
No, I think it was. I think it was after.
Case of not caring,
I think it was after the divorce that they were dating. Hey, but what about Trump? What do you know about Trump dating Robin Givens? Anything about that?
I know so little about Trump.
Okay.
To quote my old friend Richard Belzer, they have not come up with a unit of scientific measurement that could express how little I give a flying crap about Donald Trump.
Hey, now what about one last Trump question, okay? And I'll never bother you again. What hair plugs? Because in his wife's book, she talks about him getting hair plugs. Did you see him needing a hair plug or anything back in those days?
You know what? I don't remember ever thinking. I don't remember noticing his hair, but I don't remember noticing his hair missing. Or I usually look at somebody and I can spot a wig a million miles away or hair plugs, and I don't remember that ever even going through my mind. So I'm sure. I'm sure if he needed them, I'm sure he got them, and I'm sure if he got them, they're the world's most expensive. But I don't know. And once again, I could give a flying rat's ass. I don't want him to blow up the country. I don't care what he does with his hair. Jeez, he could shave off his pubic hair and glue it to his head. That's fine with me. Just don't get me blown up, man.
Hey, now what about Howard Stern? You hear these stories all the time about he's wearing a wig, he dyes his hair. What do you think about that?
Next question. I'm not. I don't care. I don't know. I never thought that. Please, I got everything I can do to try and keep the little hair I got still going. I don't give a crap about anybody else's hair.
Okay, but you've been swimming with Howard, right?
I've been in the water, yeah,
Okay.
Well, of course, when he goes in the pool, he takes off his wig and leaves it on his chair. Of course. You idiot.
I love you, man. Hey, okay, now what about...
I do know he does wear a merkin.
What is a merkin?
Do you really not know what a merkin is?
It sounds familiar. What is it, though?
In the old days, when the prostitutes got all diseased, they'd have to completely shave themselves to get rid of their diseases. But then they didn't want their Johns to know it, so they used to have actual pubic wigs. A merkin is a pubic wig. Look it up, M-E-R-K-I-N.
I'm going to have to look it up. How do you know that?
I've known that forever. God. We had a baseball team in Oyster Bay called the Merkins.
Hey, now what about when you left the show and stuff like that, did you have to sign any kind of non-disclosure or any kind of privacy agreements?
Yeah, I had to say that I promise I will never tell anybody that Howard Stern wears a merkin.
You just did your broken.
No, I can say and do whatever I want. I don't care. Hey, I'm 69 years old. I might not be here tomorrow. I'm doing whatever I want, and I really do whatever I want. I just did a couple of little movies and I did a sitcom pilot, and I got another one on the line, and I got a documentary coming out. And my book just came out, and I'm in heaven. Like if somebody decides they want to come after me for something, I'm like, do it, please make my life interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like you love to work, and love to create. You never...
I sit down on my computer and I pump, that stupid joke about Trump on his and Harvey and their knees. That just came to me last night, and I was like, that is so funny. I must have texted it to 100 people. It's like, I'm sure it's been said a billion times, but it really succinctly said it just right,
Well, I haven't heard it before.
One podcast I do that's really great. I do David Feldman's podcast, and he talks to the most astute, brilliant, wonderful political comedians and funny comedians and legendary comedians, and then he has me on, and I do like 10 or 15 minutes worth of the filthiest, wildest dick jokes, and he just goes berserk. So I'm like the comic page to the David Feldman podcast. So I dare anybody to give a listen to that. It's unbelievable.
Hey, so like when you write a joke and you go back a year later and you read it again, do you laugh out loud?
Well, I don't really write jokes. Like that Harvey joke, that's very rare for me. Like, that's what I used to do on the Stern Show, you know, depending what was going on in the news. That's very typical of something I would have written when we're sitting there. But I just tell old jokes. I don't care about writing jokes. They've all been written before, you know. Just, you know, but, that Harvey joke is just so typical because you take a spoonful of whatever's going on. You know, you get so you could walk down the street and see the New York Post headline, and you almost could write the jokes that Leno was going to say that night. You know, they write themselves, you know.
Yeah. Now when you were there on the Stern Show every day and these starlets were coming in, these young actresses and stuff, did you hear any of these rumors about Harvey Weinstein?
You know what? I always thought that guy was an ugly hedgehog, and I couldn't believe that his movie company was doing that because I'm a very shallow guy, and I'm thinking that is an ugly, horrible, fat pig of a man. But I never heard anything about him. But if I did, it wouldn't even register with me. Who cares? My God, if I was an actress and that guy came on to me, I would have told the world. I would have said, hey, look at this slob of a man. How dare he? The fact that he got away with it for years just you know, tells the whole tale of Hollywood now, full of crap everybody is, you know. Let me just go down on one guy. You know, Marilyn Monroe, when she finally got famous, she said, well, I guess I've been under the desk for the last time, you know. God knows what they put her through. You know what I mean? Like, but for somebody to all of a sudden go, oh, I can't believe it. I mean, you know, William Shakespeare was writing with his right hand and he had his hands all over a girl with his left hand. You know, this is show business. That's been going on since the beginning of time. You know, give me money, give me property, give me a role in a movie, and for a little action. You know, I mean, like all of a sudden they're like, wow, I can't believe the priests are fooling around with the boys. The priests been fooling around with the boys since the beginning of man. God, you put a priest and an altar boy alone in a church, you know, in the year 300. You know, they've been raping each other since time began. All of a sudden, like, I can't believe the priest got caught. Oh my God, the whole world's walking around with blinders on. You know, I read joke books from 300 years ago, and half the jokes are about the altar boys and the priests and the bishops buggering each other and, you know, getting the nuns pregnant. And, you know, there's nothing new under the sun. There's just nothing new. And everybody's like, wow, I can't believe it. Well, believe it. Please.
Now, did you ever...
The girl that let Harvey Weinstein get away with anything should take the full responsibility for the next one. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, you say something. I don't know. Why didn't you say something? You know?
Well, and they had a whole TV show, Entourage, and they had a whole episode about a character that was based on Weinstein. It's not like people didn't know. It was all over the place.
Yeah, the whole world, you know, but everybody knows all that stuff. Just like all the people that are gay in Hollywood and all the people that did this and did that. You know, same thing with a small town. Everybody knows, you know, all people want to do is talk about what other people are doing. You know, there's no new news. You know, it's just all crazy. Anyway, you know, but that's keeps it interesting, I guess, you know.
Now, what about you? Did you ever move to L.A. and get caught up in all that, you know?
No, I moved to Pennsylvania for a couple of months just so I could date Jerry Sandusky.
See, how'd you think of that? When did you think of that?
I'm in Las Vegas. I used to come out to do shows at the Riviera, and I had a good time in Las Vegas. And I've been to Los Angeles, you know, back and forth a bunch of times, but I never got caught up in anything, you know. I was never famous enough or an actor or a sitcom star or anything like that, you know. When I got semi-famous, it was because I was on the radio at 6 o'clock in the morning, which kind of cuts into your, you know, except for going out and drinking and doing my shows, I wasn't doing a lot, you know.
All right, we got a commercial break. We're here with Jackie the Joke Man Martling. one of the funniest men on the face of the earth. I can't believe he just said he was never that famous. I can't believe he just said that, Jackie. His website is JackieTheJokeMan.com. We'll be right back with more of this. His book that just came out, you can find it on Amazon. You can pre-order it. The Joke Man, Bow to Stern. We'll be back with...
You should go to JackieTheJokeMan.com. Go right now, JackieTheJokeMan.com, and buy a copy, damn it.
There you go. We'll be right back after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. Archival Revival, the Christian Film Archive, is currently paying for vintage Christian films. They are dedicated to preserving and restoring classic Christian films and media. So if you have an original prints, negatives, or other film elements of classic Christian films, or you have audio recording masters for classic Christian record albums, they want to buy them from you. So email archival.revival@gmail.com, and they're going to make you an offer. Archival Revival wants to preserve these classic Christian films so that they continue saving people for years. These films have brought people to salvation. They want to continue that. Their staff has decades of experience in handling and preserving of film elements, and they utilize the very best climate-controlled film storage facilities around the world. Contact them today at archival.revival@gmail.com. If there's someone you know has these prints, negatives, recording masters, or other materials from vintage Christian films, you can check out their blog at archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Now, just so you understand, Archival Revival wants to pay you for these films. So you can look in your church attic, in the church basement. If you have a friend who runs a Christian youth ministry or these youth vacation Bible study camps, they have these old films in those big metal containers, 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter. Archival Revival wants to buy them from you. So this is a sponsor that actually wants to give you money. And all you have to do is contact them, tell them what you have. If you're in the UK or Ireland or Africa, these films are all over the world, and they're gathering dust, and they're going to deteriorate if they don't get into the hands of Archival Revival. So that's archival.revival@gmail.com, or the blog spot is archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Don't forget, this show is brought to you by pscoco.com. Phoebe Sod is an independent curator with the Cocoa Exchange. The Cocoa Exchange is formerly known as Dove Chocolate Discoveries, and they make the finest silky smooth chocolate because the products start with the best cocoa beans, which are tested for quality and flavor by expert technicians. The Cocoa Exchange offers not just premium chocolates, but anything from sauces and spices to brownie and cake mixes, and even coffee and martini mixes. If you wish to treat yourself or someone you love to a sweet and tasty gift, then the Cocoa Exchange is the brand for you. So you go to pscoco.com, you click on the Shop Now button. You can see all their beautiful chocolates. You can order it right now tonight. It could be in your mailbox in a couple of days. Or if you want to get into the chocolate business, you want to be a chocolatier just like Phoebe Sod, you can click the Contact Us button, and you can learn how to get your own website, go into the cocoa chocolate business, and sell chocolate and make a little bit of money there. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. But you also do all the kind of different services for you. An online dating service investigation. It's called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, even gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites. If you think your ex-husband or something is addicted to prescription medication or involved in a extreme online pornography addiction, we can produce a report for you that you can use in court. Adoption investigations. If you want to locate your birth parents or your birth child you gave away for adoption, we can do adoption investigations for you. Asset searches for you. Locate bank accounts, hidden assets, hidden properties, hidden income, all different kinds of services in the asset search investigation. Email tracing. If you need to locate or identify somebody from just an email address, we can do an email trace investigation for you. And all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at
American Freedom Radio.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We are here with the infamous Jackie the Joke Man Martling, and you can catch Jackie at another live performance if you're missing the one that's on tonight. 7:30 Wednesday, November 22nd. It's going to be a show and a book signing.
No, I see him all the time. That obnoxious.
I can't hear you. What'd you say?
I gotta go. I'm on the air in 5 seconds.
You got to go on another show in 5 seconds? Oh, Jackie doesn't know we're back on the air. But Jackie's going to be on 7:30 Wednesday, November 22nd, The Cutting Room at East 32nd Street near Park Avenue, New York, New York. And that's thecuttingroomnewyorkcity.com. Jackie, are you there?
I forgot. I went away. I left. I went to have lunch. Hey, how you doing?
We heard you yelling at somebody over there.
No, I just talking to a comedy legend, Danny Lobel. He's a great, great guy that knows everybody, and we're just firming up a podcast recording for Monday. And I didn't know how many years I was going to be on hold, so I wanted to get something.
Yeah, I should have told you.
I was going to go out and plant my garden while you had me on hold.
Hey, we got to make money too, you know. Hey, no, but that's a good question. Who do you find funny today? What comedians today make you laugh?
Nobody. You know what the truth is? I don't listen. I don't know. You know, to me, the new comedian is Chris Rock.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I don't pay attention because, you know, I respect totally anybody that tries any facet of show business, and who knows what's funny and what's not. The concept of standing up in front of strangers and saying something that's going to make them all laugh is such an absurd premise to begin with, so I don't even think about it, you know. I do know for years I was supposed to be this dirty comedian, and now there's not a guy out there that's not 5 times filthier than me, so.
Yeah.
You know, I just been getting up and telling my jokes forever, and I just love it. I don't pay attention to whatever anybody else is doing, you know.
And you mentioned that when you were during the commercial break, you were booking a gig, a podcast, right? Do you have any help doing that, or you do all this all by yourself?
No, you know what? I've had, you know, managers and stuff. Like, I'm doing this book, and I have a great publicist with Post Hill Press. This woman, Devin Brown, she's really wonderful, and she's getting me a lot. But I like dealing with the stupid club owners and arguing and finding out where I'm working. And, you know, to me, to have somebody in the middle of it just makes it all that much more confusing. You know, it's not like somebody books me for $30,000 and then gives me my flight information. You know, I'm jumping around the tri-state area and having fun and doing an interview and doing a commercial. And, you know, I like the guts of the whole thing. That's what I do. You know, it's not like I'm doing something else during the day that eats up my time. You know, I like piddling. You know, I really do. I always have. They always yelled at me because I was my own manager and agent. But, you know, I do it better than anybody else, you know. Well, maybe not, but I enjoy it.
You enjoy it. I can tell you enjoy it because you're just going back and forth.
Yeah. It's a goof.
Yeah.
You know, dealing with idiots like you.
Yeah, I know. No, but I tell you, you know what? Hey, listen, a lot of guests, they're like divas. You know what I mean? You don't want to deal with them. But the second email you sent me, he sends me a bunch of jokes. He sends me a list of jokes. I'm sitting there reading the jokes. You know?
Well, you know, I'm just goofy. You know, I send out jokes like that once a month to everybody. And when I meet somebody new, I put them on the list, and I send them out the email that had gone out that month already, you know, and you can tell your listeners, jokeland@AOL.com. I answer all my own email, JOKELAND, jokeland@AOL.com. And if you email me, you wind up on the list and you get a pile of filthy jokes every month, including some jokes for the kids. And I tell everybody where I'm working and what I'm working on. And, you know, it's like everybody's newsletters, except my newsletter has billions of filthy, repeatable, dirty jokes, which makes it a little bit more interesting, you know?
Yeah, I already told him. I told him the night I got that email. I said, this is the greatest thing. You email the guy, and he sends you all these jokes. It's the coolest thing in the world. Now, and I'm the same way, too. Listen, you're right. Chris Rock, he's the newest guy to me, too. You know what I mean? I can't keep up. But when you were coming up, though, growing up, who were your big influences? Who did you look up to?
Well, I wasn't a comic. I had no intention of being a comic. You know, I loved watching Red Skelton, and I used to laugh my ass off watching Red Skelton. And then in the 70s, I, of course, loved Rodney Dangerfield. And then when I crossed paths with him and wound up hanging out with him a little bit, it was like I died and went to heaven. But I wasn't a guy that, like, bought the Robert Klein album or bought Cheech and Chong albums and studied them. You know, I was a joke teller. I bought the Red Fox albums because they were loaded with filthy jokes. You know, it was a great time. And, you know, I met him and we're like, yeah, you know, two joke characters. You know, I'm email buddies with Willie Nelson. We send jokes back and forth all the time. You know, it's just, you know, joke lovers are joke lovers. You know, there's a whole chapter in my book about when I told a filthy joke to Paul McCartney. You know, it's like, that's what I live for. You know what I mean?
Hey, yeah, out of all the guests on the Stern Show, who do you remain friends with?
You mean guests?
Yeah, guests.
Well, Pat Cooper and I haven't seen Pat in like a year, but we continued to go to dinner and hang out, and he came on my radio show a few times. And, well, you know, Grillo was on the show. As far as the actual guests, I mean, I was friends with Sam, but he died.
Yeah.
It's like I was still friends with Jessica for a little while. You know, like there weren't really people that came on there that were like actually became friends. You know, it was more like people that were aligned with the show. You know, I stayed friends with the guys on the E Crew and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah, I had Bill Kennison, Sam Kennison's brother, on the show. We did a whole show about Sam Kennison. Now, what about who's Rossi? Joe Rossi, you know, the singer guy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Someone told me that he discovered you.
I didn't hear what you said.
Rossi, Alan and Rossi. I forget his first name, though. Alan and Rossi. That they say that Rossi discovered you.
Discovered me?
Yeah.
Steve Rossi's an old friend, though.
Steve Rossi.
He's great. Yeah, you know, he used to tell people he discovered Howard, too.
Oh, okay.
He's such a great character, Steve. I actually met him in Las Vegas when I was with Rodney in 1980. So me and him went way, way, way back, you know.
Yeah, because Steve Rossi's here in Vegas, and people that know him, you know, on my Facebook, you know, said, I have Jackie the Joke Man coming on. They says, oh, yeah, Steve Rossi discovered him. And they said something, too, about it. He discovered Howard as well.
Oh, he's just so funny. He passed away about a year ago.
Oh,
what a
really?
Great guy.
Oh, man, don't you hate that?
One of the greatest I was just on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast for the second time, and I told him the greatest Steve Rossi. It might be the greatest show business ever, the Steve Rossi story. And that'll be in the next book. That's not in this book, but it's just, you know, off the charts, disgraceful and hysterical and wonderful all at the same time. You know, yeah, Steve was a character, real character.
Hey, what about people like Maury Amsterdam and Henny Youngman? Were they a big influence on you, stealing their jokes?
Henny Youngman was the first guy that ever took me to lunch at the Friars Club, and I made him laugh, and that was a real big deal. And I think that's in the next book. I don't think that story's in this book. And Maury Amsterdam is actually in my book because he kind of inspired me. You know, this whole Stump the Joke Man thing where I know jokes, you know, I know every joke. I saw him, you know, tell Johnny Carson, give me a subject, I'll give you a joke. And Carson gave him a subject, and he gave him a joke, and everybody was so impressed, and including me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be able to do that someday with dirty jokes. And that's, you know, so I was always a Maury fan, you know. I'm a fan of anybody that did those old stupid jokes. You know, Henny Youngman was just wonderful. You know, we did a Gizmo together years ago. He was a great, he was a great character.
when I was a little kid in New York, Henny Youngman's phone number was listed in the Manhattan phone book, and I used to call him up when I was like 8, 9 years old.
Yeah, and he'd say, well, I'm sure he'd say, "Don't forget me when it's time for your bar mitzvah."
All kind of stuff like that. And Maury Amsterdam, I ran into him in Fort Lauderdale when I was like 25 years old. He was having breakfast. I went over, said hello to him. Wonderful guy. The Friars Club. When did you join the Friars Club?
I joined the Friars Club so long ago. I was the first guy out of anybody. And I'm not counting, Bill Cosby and George Carlin, the guys that had actual record deals and put out records from a company. I'm the first guy that made his own homemade records. And I was selling them at the door at my gigs in 1979. And I was down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I took them with me and sold them there. And then I got booked in the Catskills in like 1984. And I went up to do a gig, and I saw that Freddie Roman was appearing in the big room, and I had met him in Florida years ago. So I went up and checked in, and I was on my way downstairs to go see if I could find him, and he was on his way up the stairs. I said, I was just going down to look for you, and he said, I was just coming up the stairs to look for you. I'm like, holy Christmas, Freddie, you remember me? He says, what do you mean? He says, nobody ever handed me their album before when I walked into a comedy club. And, and at the time, still nobody had done it. And it was 5 years later. And I said, listen, I love that Friars Club, and he sponsored me. And Freddie was the dean of the Friars Club, and the dean of the Friars Club was my sponsor. And I interviewed and became a friar in, I think, 1984. So I've been a friar a long time. 35 years,
And you still go down there?
Yeah, I was there like 2 nights ago, and I'm having a big book warming party. It's a private party, but a big book warming at the Friars Club, and it's a wacky little place,
Hey, we were talking before about Steve Rossi, right? And Pat Cooper. Like a lot of guys like Pat Cooper and George Takei and stuff like that, they got a whole career, a whole new life, just by their stints over there on the Howard Stern show, right?
Oh, Pat is one of the funniest guys in the world and always has been. And he's always continued to shoot himself in the foot, and he doesn't care. But, yeah, he got re-exposed, thanks to the Stern show. But people never, his genre and his audience really never did forget him. But I know what's going on with George Takei. I do know that I really loved when he used to come on the show. That was always really fun. I guess he's still involved over there, but he's a really nice character. Some of these guys just got the show.
Yeah.
Like David Brenner and Joan Rivers, they got the show. They understood from the word go that, this is a guy just being an idiot and acting goofy, that there was no, that there was no maliciousness to anything that was going on,
It's funny when you mention these old names, Joan Rivers and Brenner, they're all dead, Isn't in some way that comedy gold, man? Because, can you think of any other comedy in general, day after day after day, 5 days a week, year after year, there was comedy that quality as the Howard Stern show of that time? And can you, in history, maybe Sid Caesar? What can you think of?
I don't know. People ask stuff like that, and you can't answer when you're on the inside,
right?
Because that Sid Caesar show was so legendary because they did 90 minutes every week. But if you go back and look at it, it's not to be an idiot, but so much of it is so hit and miss. And the Marx Brothers, the classics of all time. You could sit there for a long time in between laughs watching a Marx Brothers movie, and we sat there for 15 years and just, he just kept hitting home runs between him and what I wrote and what Fred wrote and what we did and who he had in, It really was a juggernaut. It really was, and I always feel funny talking about it because I really think of all the the great things people say about it. I agree with all of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even though I was a part of it. Like, if you're in the 1927 Yankees, you can't be humble. If it was a great ball team, it was a great ball team, So, it was a comedy, whatever you'd call it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even after you were gone, for a while there, You know, when they went to Sirius, I paid the money. I was broke, but I paid that money to keep listening. I was addicted. I loved it. But today, I wouldn't even. I don't care.
I don't know and I don't listen, so I don't get in the conversation. You know, it'd be one thing if I listened and could have an opinion, but I don't. You know, there's people that write me all the time and say, "Oh, the best thing that happened to that show is the day you left." You know, there's all kinds of hurtful things I get. But other, you know, people say it's the best it ever was. People say it's the worst it ever was. And to tell you the truth, I just don't care. You know, that ship sails. Like somebody saying, "Hey, did you hear they painted your old high school?" It's like,
right.
Okay, fine. Good for my high school. You know what I mean? I still love it. You know, I loved it when I went there 50 years ago, but it doesn't really matter to me if they painted it. You know what I mean?
And you were saying right before the break that you think that you were never that famous. You don't think you were that famous. You don't think that you're famous right now. You don't think that you're a big deal.
No, but what I meant was that you know, they're not they're not jumping over each other to hire me and being crazy. So it's not like the world, you know, like I can't step out of my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, you know, it's funny. Fame is very funny. I'm very well known to the people that know who I am. You know? I was just telling somebody last night, I can walk around New York City for 2 days and have nobody say hello. And then I can walk out of my apartment and have, you know, 5 people come up to me on the sidewalk. It is so random, just so totally random, you know?
Yeah, you're a familiar face.
Sometimes I stand up on top of a taxi cab's hood and yell, "It's me, Jackie," and then they know who it is, you know.
Okay, but what about when you're on the phone, like with the gas company or the electric company? Do they recognize your voice?
A lot of times.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times they you know, it's funny how a lot, you know, when it's business, it's really hard for people. So every once in a while, somebody go, "Listen, I have to ask you, is this, you know what I mean?" Because my name is John, so
right.
My name comes up as John Martling, but then they hear my voice, and not too often, because it's people's business. So, like, if they say, "Hey, is this Jackie the Joke Man?" You know, I could call the boss and say, "Hey, I'm just trying to do business. Tell him to leave me alone," which I never would. But, you know, it's not a lot, but it is always fun,
yeah.
You know, you meet somebody, or you know, and you go to somebody's house, and their mother, like I just had a bunch of photos done the other day. And we went to the photographer's house, and the photographer lived with his parents, or had a studio in his parents' house. I walked in, and his father's like, "Holy crow!" You know what I mean? Like, I wish it was his sister, but it's his father.
Hey,
you know, people come to my shows, like, you know, I had a guy come the other day. This was so great. He had a copy of my second album, which is called Going Ape, that I put out in 1981. And he came into the show, and after the show, he says, "Look at this album." I said, "Oh, wow, man, that's a classic." He says, "I was at your show in 1981, and I told you that my girlfriend and I were there, and I told you we had just gotten engaged, and you said, 'Congratulations,' and you handed me this album." And he turns and he says, "And these are my 3 sons. I married that girl, and these are our 3 sons, and his 3 kids in their 30s. And I just thought that was so cool. You know, and the bottom line is it just makes me old, but it was very cool, you know.
Yeah.
I said, "So you went home and listened to my dirty jokes, and you banged your wife and had kids. Way to go."
That is, you know, you said before you have no regrets. You really have no regrets looking back?
No, you know, I think I quit drinking when I had to.
Yeah.
You know, I don't regret what happened with the show, although I did tell them I would take the deal if it was on the table still. So if they had, you know, if Howard had said, "Yeah, let him come back," I would have been back on the show. But I don't know for how long, you know, for another 2 years, 5 years, whatever. But I don't regret anything I did. And, you know, of course there's things you wish you hadn't done or wish you had done, but not big major things. You know, like I probably should have quit drinking sooner, but I couldn't. And maybe we should have got divorced sooner, but we couldn't. And maybe I should have had kids, and you know, when I was younger, but I didn't. And you know, but it's been a terrific ride. And if I had to do it, I would do the whole thing again. Other people are like, "Oh, I'm done," and I'm like, "No, man. You know, only slap me on the ass and start me again. I'm ready to go." You know, it's been way too much fun. You know.
There's a line.
There's a lot of heartbreak and a lot of ups and downs. I tell people in the 70s, I had no money. I was as broke as the Ten Commandments. I didn't have anything. You know, we smoked pot, we drank, we traveled around in a 1955 bright yellow Cadillac hearse. We banged who we could, laughed as much as we could, and I had no money, and I was happy half the time and miserable half the time. You know, and then I got on the Stern Show and got famous and rich, and I was happy half the time and miserable half the time. And now I'm off the show, and I'm comfortable. I work some. I don't work a lot. I got a beautiful girlfriend, and I'm happy half the time and miserable half the time. So nothing changes for me. You know what I mean? I've been up and down my whole life, and you just learn to live with it. It's that easy, you know? If things suck one day, they shall pass, you know?
Man, what a great attitude. You got to call me every day.
That attitude. I'll tell you, it's so funny. I can be such a miserable prick all day, and then I walk into the post office and say something and make the guy behind the counter laugh, and I'm off and running. It's a new world. You know, I'm that shallow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to call me every. You got to call me every day, Jackie. Man, cheer me up.
What?
Yeah, you got to call me every day and cheer me up.
Listen. It's very easy to be nice and up and crazy for 2 hours talking to you on the phone. I'll hang this up, and then I'll go outside and kick my cat and then drown the local dog, you know.
You still got cats after Timmy?
I'm a decent guy.
After Timmy, you still got cats?
That was our kitty. You know, it's so funny that, you know, that cat, you know, he got let out of the house by accident, got ran over, and it was so horrible. And they laughed about that for years. And now they tell me that Howard's this big animal lover and everything. I wonder if he tells his new wife that, oh, you know what's the funniest thing on the show is when Jackie's cat got ran over and squished. Oh. I wonder how that flies, you know.
You know what? I didn't even remember that's what the story was. I remember F. Timmy.
People come up to me on the street and say, F. Timmy, you know. F. Timmy's rotted skull. I'm like, do you really understand what you're saying? Do you realize our cat got run over by a car and you're saying you'd like to have sex with its corpse? And people are like, no, I had no. They don't even know what they're saying. You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't care, you know.
Yeah, when I posted on Facebook I was going to have you on the show, the first thing they said was F. Timmy. And I says, oh, yeah, F. Timmy. I remember that. But I didn't know that, my God, the cat got...
Oh, yeah, it couldn't have been more horrible. And they just did it to upset my wife, which was just so wrong. But that was the show, you know.
Hey, what was going on with Howard and your wife? There was like a love-hate thing going on there, right? What was that deal?
Well, he just, you know, he just picked on her and told the world that I was supporting her career because she had no talent. Meanwhile, she's one of the most talented people I ever met. And he just liked to give her crap, and she fought back. So it was good for the show, you know. She'd get on the phone with him and go toe-to-toe with him, and it was wonderful, you know. I mean, we were all friends, you know, and he, you know, he thought she was so cute and everything, you know. He always said, oh, yeah, I could bang your wife. And meanwhile, you know, he couldn't bang a hooker if his pockets were full of $50 bills, so come on, you know. So it was always in fun. It was always good. You know, they'd start picking on her, and she'd call in. They go, oh, Nancy's on the phone. And, well, here we go. Strap in your seatbelt, you know.
And what about that, during that period of time when he would ride his bike? He would ride his bike over to your house and hang out with you?
No, you know, he just showed up a couple times. I don't think he rode his bike here. Although, you know what? I don't remember. I just know the couple times he showed up here. But that was, you know, that was very odd. That was very late on. I think when he was thinking of getting divorced or whatever.
Mm.
No, but we weren't really pals. We weren't hangout pals. You know, we went on a couple double dates with me and Nancy and him and Beth. I mean, maybe we went out to a concert or something. You know, we went to Manhattan with him and Allison to a play. But it was very, you know, it was very sporadic, not too often. You know.
Was there anybody who was hangout pals with Stern?
You know, just Ralph, as far as I know.
Ralph, that's right. I forgot all about Ralph. Is he still around?
Listen, I have no idea.
Ralph.
I'm proud to say I have no idea.
I would, yeah. You know what? I'm proud to say that too. Thank God. Although if I can get him on the show, I'll bring him on. Trust me. Okay.
Oh, you know, it's so funny because Howard used to beat everybody up because people would meet people and then hang around with them, and then he winds up having his best friend was basically a guy who stalked the show.
Mm.
Ralph pumped gas and stalked the show and finagled his way on, but who cares, you know?
Yeah.
Once you meet somebody, if you like him, you like him. I never have a problem with that, you know?
Hey, what about, there was like I don't know how to put this, but there was a lot of, like, I guess, dysfunctional or, like, mental illness around the show. Like, Howard said he had OCD, and Robin went through a period where she was, like, on the warpath, you know. What was up with that? What was it like working?
Everybody's crazy. You know, you're in the same little room with people 5 hours a day. You're sick one minute, you're not sick the next minute. You know, I'm a drunk one minute, I'm not the next. Who cares? It's all malarkey. You have your little diseases, or you don't have them. I'm so too busy trying to keep myself happy and keep myself entertained. I could care less what else somebody says, "Oh, Charlie has a drinking problem." I said, "Well, I tell him to enjoy himself. I'm too busy dealing with mine over here." Who the hell cares? I never cared.
And what about the Whack Pack? Yeah, any kind of funny stories dealing with the Whack Pack?
No, well, they're all my book. That was all fun. But the one thing is, I coined that phrase. I don't know if anybody still gives me credit for that, but the Whack Pack was my creation. Not the Whack Pack, but just calling it that, which is fun.
And what about, like, day to day? How much of that was scripted, or how much was organic?
None.
None.
No. Except when we did a bit, or when it was a song parody. But aside from that, it was all on the fly, totally 100% on the fly.
Well, and then how did that work? You would do the show, then you would have a staff meeting after the show?
No. In the beginning, me and Fred and Howard would sit around and maybe write a song parody or write a bit. But it was basically, we'd get there in the morning and he'd start talking, and we'd come up with things for him to say. It was never like, "Hey, let's do this today," or "let's do that today." It was just, as spontaneous as anything could possibly be. That was the miracle. He's the most amazing broadcaster of all time. I go to my grave saying that. It just, people used to say, I remember in interviews, people say, how does he talk for 4 hours? And I'm like, that's not the trick. The trick is getting them to shut the hell up after 4 hours. He's amazing.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, because the show would go on, and you'd have 4 hours you were locked in for, but they'd go on for another half hour.
Sometimes we were there till 11:15. It would just go on and on. You never could make plans. That was great.
What other kind of shows can do that today? Nobody.
Except for this interview. I think this interview's been about 8 days. Nobody's going to read the book. They say, "I listen to that crap on the radio. Why do I have to read the book?"
Well, I won't ask you about the book anymore. Hey, what about, you ever consider doing your own podcast? Everyone's doing them.
You know what? I don't do them because I really enjoy being on the air with people, and I really like doing guesting on them. To do a podcast, you got to be out there scrounging for guests and getting guys, and I just haven't done my own yet. I've been approached. I got approached twice in the last week, but once you're doing your own, then you feel funny. But I like going on with Gilbert, going on with Opie, and it's just it's so much fun to just visit as opposed to opening your own restaurant.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Talking to you, meanwhile, I could sign up for a podcast this afternoon. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, that's always true, too, yeah. But I know exactly what you mean. Like, I thought when I first started doing interviews, being interviewed, I thought, well, this is the most fun thing in the world. I'll just write a book, and I'll just do, conversations, tell jokes on the air. It'll be a lot of fun. And then I wound up doing this, being the host, and it's a lot more work. It's a lot more.
Hey, listen, I did a podcast that's the #1 business podcast.
Okay.
Everybody really loved it, because it's a combination of business, but they're interviewing me. It's called The Nice Guys on Business. The Nice Guys on Business podcast. And the guy was really good. He's amazing. And I did that after I did the Thrive Loud podcast with my friend Lou Diamond. And these are not comedy podcasts. These are businessmen and people who make a lot of money and people that are really movers and shakers. So to get on with them and be laughing and being crazy and telling them my ideas, it's just a really nice combination. That's why I really like, if you go on different people's podcasts, you take the color and the shape of them. You're like a chameleon. Depending on, like I was on Joe Piscopo's, radio show yesterday, I became the guy that hung around with Joe. And then I go on with Jim Kerr on Q104, and all of a sudden it's a classic rock fooling around in 1968, it's fun being a chameleon and just, going into whatever you have to do,
Whatever happened to Jackie's joke hunt?
I just got yanked off the air.
Any reason?
I still don't know why. They never gave us a reason. They just stopped it.
Really? Were they paying you for that, or was that just a fun thing?
No, I was getting paid, but we did it for 8 years, and everybody loved it.
Jackie Joke Hunt was on for 8 years?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that blew by for me.
402 shows. 402 shows, each one with a different hysterical name. And you should see the list of the 400 names. It's just hysterical. And we told my buddy Ian, my co-host, he said it was like 11,000 jokes we told, all kinds of crazy stuff,
No, I remember. I used to listen to it because I was a subscriber back in those days, and I can remember coming out of the swimming pool with my kid when she was little, and Jackie Joke, and I would never, I didn't, because Joke Hunt, it's like an old joke, but
it's great.
Yeah. Oh man! So just one day they just told you, okay, we don't want you no more.
Huh?
One day they just said we don't want you no more.
Well, it was on Stern 101.
Right.
And I don't know whether they're trying to clean up the stations because of the new woman that was in charge, or whether I don't know whether it's because we weren't good enough or whether we were too good. You never know. It's the whole Stern thing is very crazy. I will tell you, they never gave us a reason. They said, well, we're going to get rid of all the shows on 101, and we're the only one they got rid of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there was, I don't know what kind of games go on there, but, who cares? It certainly was fun while it lasted, I'll tell you that.
But now, you went back to the show for a visit a couple of times. Was that awkward? How'd that go?
No, always fun. Just so much fun. I mean, I walk into that show, and we immediately click back into, to the Howard, Robin, Fred, and Jackie. Click, boom. Gary walks in, boom. It's so carved in stone. I mean, anybody that wants to could deny it, but anybody that's listening, just and they don't have me back because people go, it's so easy. He just came in and it was so much fun. Well, how could you not have him back? But but that ship sailed, so you can't blame Howard. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, it's his ball game.
Yeah. And with all the stuff you've done, this is the first time you've written a book that actually has the name Stern in it. What kind of reaction have you gotten? Any reaction from the other side over there about that?
No reaction. I don't. I'm sure Howard knows I have a book out. I don't know how much he cares or doesn't care. And it's it's not hurtful and it's fun and it'll be interesting to see how everybody takes it.
And is there any chance at all?
Emails from people saying, "What a piece of crap you are, trashing the show," and I'm like, of course the person hasn't seen or read the book yet, because if they read it, they wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? They just assume that it's a trashy novel. It's funny. I'll tell you, it is funny.
Yeah. People should get to know you off the air. They surely should. Because I got to tell you, I've been chatting back and forth with Jackie all week long. Man, he's a really cool guy. He's very easy to work with. I tell you that.
I'm a decent chap. That's Howard always told people I was impossible to work with, and I was angry and grumpy, and I wasn't funny, and I was cheap. Because all that stuff made me crazy. Because I'm none of those things.
Now, what about like after the show? Do you feel like maybe there was like a blacklist? Maybe like people like trying to put a blacklist on you there after you left?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe people might have been a little afraid to piss them off by you, but no, I'd say no.
Because it does seem that anybody who leaves the show suddenly becomes an enemy. You know what I mean?
Oh, you know what? Enough about the show. I just don't care. I don't care. I don't know what they do and what they don't do. People come up to me all the time with hey, here's the latest. I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. Yeah. People say, hey, why isn't the show funny anymore? I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Hey, the show's better than ever. Like, what do you want me to say? I don't care. Yeah. Not that I'm being a dick. It's just like, that ship sailed. It doesn't affect me anymore. Tell me that my car is out of gas. That affects me,
One last question about not the show, but when you talk about the song parodies, you used to do with Fred and stuff like that. Why did you stop doing those?
Just because the show was so funny, just the way it was. Like, the truth of it, how, we do a song parody, play it once and never play it again because, Howard likes to listen to himself talk. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that disparagingly. The show is just as funny without us going to all that trouble. We love doing them. We did a bunch of them that never aired. It just the show just changed. It just became, spur of the moment, boom, 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 boom.
And like now, when you do stand up now, do you still sing, do songs and stuff like that?
No. I've been doing nothing but jokes for decades. I just go up on stage and do an hour's worth of jokes, and then sometimes play Stump the Joke Man. But I just go up and fire away. I tell jokes, and then I tell dirtier jokes, and then I tell dirtier jokes, and then I tell filthy jokes, and then I tell really foul jokes, and then I say goodnight.
And you have this
stuff and take pictures and laugh and break balls, and it's always fun.
And do you have this prepared, or you just go up there off the cuff?
No, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't necessarily do it, but I have my list in my head of what the jokes I'm going to tell, and then I can just vary off and back on however I want. It's very simple.
So now, looking back, why don't you give us, what are your favorite stories you like to tell?
You know what? It's two. The greatest midget story in the world. It's in the book, and the great. There's great Stern shows. I just love telling all my stories, and if I haven't told one in a while, then I really enjoy telling it. I don't have any go-to especially favorite. My favorite thing is when something comes up organic in conversation or something spontaneously happens, and I have a wonderful story that fits it exactly. That's always really great. I always have a joke or a story or something, and I get a kick out of that. But it's not like I walk into a place and say, all right, everybody gather around. Here's the story I like to tell, I like to think I'm not that boring,
What's Nancy doing?
If you like stories, my book is modular. You know what I mean? It's in chronological order, and each story has a year before it. Like 1986. The Jessica Hahn incident, you know what I mean? And it's like a modular story that you can read, and when you're at the end of the story, you're done. So the next story is completely independent. So you can read a story or 5 stories or one story and, sit on the toilet, and you can turn to the end of the book and read a story and then go back and read a story from the beginning. It's chronological, but it's not like a thread. The only thread is the timeline. So you can jump around, and it's... And everybody says it makes it totally, totally enjoyable. And then when I put out my next book, it'll be the same thing. So, just like when they combined all the Godfathers, if you wanted to put them together, they just wind up in the order of when they happened, and it'll just be a thicker book, It's fun. I went about it with a little bit of forethought,
Yeah, and I like that, too. I like chronological order. But now that's a good question now, because now you did a movie. And you played yourself. Were you in that movie? You played yourself in that movie, but a short scene, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, if they did a real movie about this, who would you want to play you?
What that was as real a movie as it could be. That was a very real movie. You mean nowadays to play the young Jackie?
Yeah.
Chris Rock. I don't think there's really anybody handsome enough to play me.
I was thinking Tom Cruise, man. He could pull it off, right?
I'd have to do it myself. I'd have to change it with the computer to make me look a little younger.
Now, you mentioned the Jessica Hahn story, all right? And you know what? I had forgotten about that. When you mentioned Jessica Hahn before, I said, oh, yeah, Jessica Hahn. But the Jessica Hahn story was the bathtub thing, right? Now, you tell that story, what really happened in the book?
That is, the people... The Stern fans that have heard him play Nancy's Apology on the air 10,000 times, that story is worth the price of the book. The book's only like $25. I think on Amazon, I think it's like $17. And that story alone, it's a 2-part story, and that story alone is worth the price. It tells the whole story and how what happened with Jessica and what didn't happen with Jessica. So there's so much in this book that any Stern fan would have to be crazy not to get it. And if you got a friend, if you're not a Stern fan, but you got a friend that is, best possible Christmas present or holiday present or birthday present, because anybody's a fan at all. You know, you say that you used to sit outside the tunnel waiting to go through the tunnel because you wanted to hear what's next. People aren't going to be able to put this book down. I'm telling you. They're going to say, Jackie, I read it overnight. You know, I started reading and I couldn't stop, because it's got nothing to do with me. You know, it's a trip down memory lane of the show. You know what I mean? From the point of view of somebody with a good sense of humor, which is, you know, which is a good deal.
I hear you, man. Now, if I go to Amazon .com right now and look up Jackie, look up The Joke Man, Bow to Stern, it says it's $17.
If you go to JackieTheJokeMan.com, the Amazon page will pop up. But just Amazon. If you just go to Amazon, The Joke Man, or Bow to Stern, any combination of those, and the book is going to pop up.
And then it's $17. So if I were to send you $70 right now, right? Would you tell us the Jessica Hahn story?
What?
If I were to pay you $17 right now, will you tell us the Jessica Hahn story over here?
But it's a great story. You know, it's so funny, because Howard's got the whole world thinking I'm cheap.
Yeah.
So everybody's, how do I get a signed book? How can I get a signed book? What if I can't get to a book signing? So I just put on the web, I said, listen, buy a book and send it to me with the return postage, and I'll be glad to autograph it to you, write whatever you want for you or your friends or whatever. So somebody writes underneath it, return postage. Man, you never change, do you, Martling, you cheap prick? You know, here I am offering to say, send the book to me. I'll go to the trouble of autographing it and mailing it back. But I'm asking you to put the postage on it, and here they call me a cheap bastard. You know, I probably make $1.50 on the book, and I'm going to spend $3 mailing the joke book back. Mailing the book back. You know, that's the kind of thing you can't buy a break. You know.
Now listen,
probably making money on the postage. You know what I mean?
Dude, I can sympathize with you there, because I got a book, you know, and I sell an autographed copy of my book from the website. And even just forget the postage. It's a lot of work, man, signing books and wrapping these things up in an envelope and taking them down to the mail. You know, this is a chore. And then signing the right name to the right book. You know.
People are never going to change.
Yeah. But back to Jessica Hahn for 1 second. Does Nancy and Jessica Hahn, did they ever meet after that?
Of course.
Okay.
Jessica did not do anything wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. You'll see. You know, you read it. You know, Jessica is Jessica.
Yeah.
The only thing she's guilty of is being Jessica. You know.
What about her? You still in touch with her?
This thing is such a charade. You know. But you have to read it to understand exactly how it took place. You know.
And you know what? I'm going to get the book. I'm going to get you to autograph it too. Okay. Because I'm going to put it in my collection. But now,
well, coming out to Las Vegas, you know, there's actually a club that's it's not a done deal, but it's almost a done deal. There's going to be a club called Jokeland.
Oh, get out of here.
A comedy club named Jokeland in Las Vegas. So I'll be coming out there once in a while, and it'll be so much fun. And I know so many people in Las Vegas, and every time I come out there, I kill so badly. Like the South Point. And I did the show at the Orleans Arena last year, and you know I do the Dirty at 12:30 show at South Point with Gabe Lopez down there, and that's a great show. If you live in Las Vegas, the Dirty at 12:30 at South Point Casino with Gabe Lopez, go down there and check it out. It's I don't think there's no cover. It's just a dirty show right there in the lounge. It's so much fun, and I headlined down there a few times, and I just love coming to Vegas. So, you know, I'm going to have to come out there 3 or 4 times a year to headline my own club. How fun is that going to be?
Yeah, and wouldn't it be great if it becomes like a chain all across the country? You know, these, what's it going to be called?
Jokeland.
Jokeland. Yeah, that's great, man. But are you still in touch with Jessica Hahn?
You know what? I was on and off for years. I haven't heard from her in probably 2 or 3 years. But she's fine. You know, she married that guy, and she was doing great, and the guy passed away. I think he left her a few dollars, and she lives low-key, and she's a sweetheart. You know, she was an innocent, you know, she was a crazy, you know, she got caught up like the rest of us get caught up. You know, she's wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love to get her on the show, man. I'll try and track her down. You know who I had on the show? Mark Harris. Remember him?
Is he still alive? I always got a kick out of that guy.
He's still alive. He's living here in Vegas. Okay. And I got a kick out of him, too. And he kind of latched on to me for a little while there. I was going to cover the debate between Hillary and Trump down there. And he found out. He wanted to come with me. And then I had to go to his house and pick him up and help him down the stairs. All this stuff. So,
I can't even imagine. Oh, my God.
Can you? I kind of, my little contact with the Whack Pack there with Jackie Jokeland.
Boy, they threw away the key after they let him out. Oh, my God, what a character.
Yeah. Well, out of all the I guess you'd call him a Whack Packer almost, right? Out of all of them, which one? Did any of them ever stalk you, start driving you crazy off the air?
No, never. They were always, I always got along nicely with them, I was in love with that girl, Elena Beastie, She died, decades ago, but she was so hot. And, Kenneth Callenbeck died, and Crackhead Bob died. But they were all the real thing, that Debbie, What's-Her-Face died. They were all such characters, but they were real, The one thing that was very funny, that was so wild, was we had the Tourette's girl who came on like for a couple of years. And then we found out that she had totally been scamming us the entire time, and none of us knew, not even Fred. She had been scamming that she had Tourette's. Oh, God. I don't even know. I'm sure that must be on the Google or somewhere in Stern Lore somewhere. I haven't thought about it till just this second, but that was so wild. Because we couldn't believe that somebody fooled all of us,
But besides that one, none of those Whack Packers were staged or hooking it up?
No.
Were there any bits or guests that were staged?
No. No, because that wouldn't have worked on the show. You mean like, hey, come in and pretend you're mad at somebody, or come in and tell somebody you have a broken leg and you don't,
Yeah, like some of the fights, some of the on-air fights that went on. Were any of those planned? Or...
No.
Wow.
The great thing in my book is the whole story of the Jackie puppet, which was staged on my side. Somebody gave me the Jackie puppet, and I said, listen, don't give it to me, because it'll wind up in the garbage. What you got to do is bring it in on your own, like you're fucking with me. So they brought it in and said, look at this, and everybody, I was like, oh, man, don't pick on me. And meanwhile, it wound up being one of the greatest things on the show, and it was all because, the positioning of the whole situation. That's a great story in the book, too. People are going to get such a kick out of that.
Well, which puppet came in first? Was it the Gary puppet or the Jackie puppet?
No, it was a Gary puppet. So these friends of mine came over one day and said, hey, look at this. I said, holy Christ, what's that? They said, it's a Jackie puppet. This is a Gary puppet. There might as well be a Jackie puppet, too. The Gary puppet begat the Jackie puppet.
Right. And what about the Gary puppet? Was that organic or was that planned?
You know what? I have no idea. No. Somebody made it and brought it to the show. It wasn't like the show said, hey, let's make a Gary puppet. No. I don't remember exactly what. It's so long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been a brilliant idea to make a Gary puppet, but nobody ever did. It just showed up. And it was so good. I don't know. I'm sure that's still around somewhere. I don't know what they did. Somebody told me that Howard put my puppet in the Jackie puppet in a toilet bowl somewhere on the set. But I don't know. What do I care?
Yeah, I read once where Howard has like all these storage units with all this memorabilia in there, and he has everything itemized. And what do you think of that?
What I think of it, I think it's possible. Do I know if it is or not? No, I have no idea. I just know the stories I hear about me that are unbelievable. So and occasionally, even a blind pig finds an acorn. They tell stories about me, and sometimes they're true. Now I'm like, oh Christ, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Now, what about the Channel 9 show? Now that was classic, man. That was classic stuff. But the way
there's like about 5 stories about the Channel 9 show in the book, and people are going to go nuts. The Siamese twins, and oh my God, that was a crazy 2 years, just the craziest. I mean, how we lived through that, doing a show 5 days a week on the radio at 6 in the morning, and then doing a television show at the end of the week. It it just was not believable. But we did it. It was great.
Yeah, and the Channel 9 show used to beat Saturday Night Live in the ratings in New York.
Sure, and then then we did the Channel 2 show, and that was up against Saturday Night Live, and that used to win too. It just because it was so fun and so raw,
yeah,
and so different and so unpredictable.
Now,
it was like everything, whatever goes.
Now, the Channel 9, was that intentional that it was so low budget, or was that just all you had to work with?
What do you mean intentional? It was low budget because they didn't give us any money to work with. It wasn't like, hey, let's give them a real small amount of money and see how great we can make it. It was like, if you want to do a TV show, here's what we're willing to give you. I wasn't in on that. I had nothing to do with it. For all I know, they gave us $10 million and we only spent $100,000 putting the show on. I would never privy to anything.
Right.
It really was an incredible challenge.
You just got paid by salary, even those pay-per-views.
Work with, and you could, every penny that we didn't spend, you could see.
Yeah.
you could see every dollar that wasn't spent on that show on that screen.
Now, even those pay-per-views, you just got a salary, you never got a percentage, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, please.
Yeah. Jackie, we're almost out of time. What do you want to leave us with? The great Jackie the Joke Man.
I'll tell you my great new joke.
Yeah.
Is now, are we on terrestrial radio or are we on the internet?
There are some AM/FM stations going to carry this, but go ahead.
It's always better. I don't know if you noticed, I haven't been dirty at all.
I noticed. Well, you slipped out.
But a couple goes to a marriage therapist, and the woman says, I'm just not happy in my marriage. So the therapist takes off all her clothes and lies her on the floor and bangs the hell out of her. He turns to the husband and says, she needs that 3 days a week. Can you make it happen? And the husband says, well, I can bring her Monday and Wednesday, but Friday I play golf. How great is that?
Yeah, it's great, man. Jackie, I love you. Okay? I love you, man. What do you want to, besides a joke, though, what do you want to sum up, man, for the show? What do you want to,
All I want to say is it's nice talking to you. If you think I'm funny and got something to say, my book is just like sitting and talking to me, and it's all stories. If you know them, you're gonna be so glad to hear them again. There's probably a lot of stories you never heard before. The audio book is going to be so great, and Artie Lang does his own forward, so it's his voice and then my voice. It's also out on Kindle, but the book is great fun. It's The Joke Man, Bow to Stern. Hopefully there'll be a volume 2. And just go to JackieTheJokeMan.com, and I tweet jokes every day. Just follow me at Jackie Martling. If you want to get jokes in email, just email me, jokeland@AOL.com. Look for the sitcom Shoot Me Nicely, and you can find that on the web. And once again, Jokeland, the comedy club, is coming to Las Vegas. So be ready, folks. We're going to have a huge grand opening, and it's just going to be a hoot. It is just going to be a hoot.
Hey, absolutely, man. I'll be there at the grand opening. I'd love to be there, man. It'd be the greatest thing on earth. Jackie, thank you so much. God bless you.
All right. I hope you guys had a good time.
Wow, Jackie, I really did. Thank you so much, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night. All right, there you got Jackie the Joke Man. Martin, really, 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 really enjoyed Jackie. And like I said, off the air, he's been such a cool guy all week long. I think he was getting a little tired there doing 2 hours. But what are you going to do, right? You can't help him out. But he's got all these appearances coming up. I want to give him a plug here. Right now, as the show is airing on Saturday night, he's on October 14th with Rick Harkaway at the Darris Theater, 615 Main Street, Boonton, New Jersey. So check him out there. It's going to be a live show. All these kinds of tweets every day, like he said, 4 o'clock, 420, excuse me. And I hate that whole 420 thing. I really do. Call it pot, call it marijuana. What was 420? It's so stupid. I'm 420 friendly. Give me a break. Anyway, 420 for Jackie. At JackieMartling.com. I'm not even on his Twitter yet, but I'm going to hook up with that. He's got a sitcom coming out. You can check it out at ShootMeNicely.com. Let's see how that works out. Then all these different book signings. I read most of them, but I'll give you a couple here toward the end here that I didn't get a chance to. Is at 7 p.m. Saturday, October 29th at 150 South Whitehorse Pike. Berlin, New Jersey. That's on October 29th. And then the show and the book signing is November 22nd, 7:30 p.m. At the Cutting Room. Okay? And that's in East 32nd Street near Park Avenue, New York, New York. So there you go. Jackie the Joke Man Martling. How can you beat that, man? I was such a huge Howard Stern fan. You have no idea. That's why I have to have Mark Harris on the show. I tried to get along with Mark Harris. We're out of time. All right, guys. Thank you so much, American Freedom Radio. Good night. I tried to get along with Mark Harris. I really did. I had him on the show. I think I had him on the show twice. Mark Harris, who was he married some old lady actress. I forget who it was. I can't even remember. But he was such a character. And then he wants to hang out with me. He wants to what do you call it? He wants me to take him to the debate with me. And he's like nagging me. Are you going to take me to the debate, Ed? Like we're best friends. And unfortunately, the guy turned out to be like a real racist. Making some really horrible comments all the time, and I just couldn't. The joke was over, and I just couldn't take him anymore, and I dumped him off. But I am the biggest Howard Stern fan, I think, on the face of the earth. I no longer listen. I don't have time to listen to anything anyway, so I no longer listen to Howard Stern. But what do you call it? At the time, in those days, back in New York in the 80s, it was everybody listened. We even used to play it in my office there for a while. And, a lot of the girls would complain because it was too dirty or whatever. But I enjoyed it. And like I said, too, one of my favorite periods of time in my life is with the Jackie Puppet. When I used to do that voice all day long, I would do the Jackie Puppet voice all day long, making fun of later on, I became my vice president, Christy Kennedy. And she was like short and tiny Irish girl, and I used to make fun of her, because she was always wanted more money. It was all the same joke about Jackie. And she used to drink a lot, because I used to say she was drunk and Irish and all that kind of stuff, fun stuff. With the Jackie the Joke Man Martling really made my day, made my week, because it's been miserable here this week with all this stuff. With this, it's been a bloodbath. We've been living here in a bloodbath, and I even went and got my hair cut the other day. I think it was 2 days ago. And I go to this place now called Sports Clips, where they cut your hair and then they shampoo your hair with this green tea stuff. It's really nice. And then they massage your head, and they take out a big vibrating thing. They massage your neck with it, and they massage your back with it. And it's really, really feels good, miss. I went there to get this because, it's just been such a stressful week here all week long. You have no idea. And so I went down and I got one of these massages and stuff. And by the way, it's cheap. It's $20, so they give you a really good deal. And I'm not a sponsor or anything like that. I'm just throwing out a plug because I enjoyed it so much. And we're talking. There's like 4 girls cutting hair, and then there's a bunch of people in the waiting room, and the topic comes up of the freaking Mandalay Bay shooting. And everyone there has a story. One girl had 10 of her friends. We're all there at the same time. They were all a group of 10 people. We're all there, and they ran for their lives. And everyone's telling these stories. This one's in the hospital, that one's in the hospital. Their neighbor's in the hospital, someone that works in the hospital, or just got out of the hospital. A lot of people are getting out, and we still don't even know 10% of what went on there. Because so many people who were there still don't have their phones back yet, and so they don't have their Facebook password. They're not on, to tell the people what's going on, because their property, when they ran for their lives, they left their property behind, because it was kind of like an outdoor festival kind of thing where people had beach chairs, and coolers and things, So and they left all this. Some people ran for their lives without their shoes. So it has been really, 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 really miserable here. All week long, again, and because it still comes up everywhere you go. And so it was nice to have Jackie to come on the show and joke around with us and make me laugh. Very kind man. And I got to tell you, really, if you should do that, go to jokeland at AOL.com, that's his email address there, and he'll send you right away, send you a bunch of jokes. It's a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Jackie the Joke Man Martling. Tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, I'm taping with this gentleman who's written a book about the Trump dossier. By the way, I think I got a press release out of there. Jackie says that Trump is what do you call him, full of shit or something like that. I think I got to go back and listen to that. Maybe we can press release that. Because that was kind of breaking news. So many people who knew Trump back in the days in real life, man, are just like in shock. What's this guy doing running the country? It's just scary as hell. But anyways, I have this guy coming on who's doing an episode about the Trump dossier. And I'm doing that show. I'm going to retape with the Program to Kill, Satanic Cover-Up. I'm going to be doing a show with him. I'm going to be doing a whole show. By the way, if you're out there and you have any information on the Harvey Weinstein case, like let's say you were molested or exposed or whatever like that to Harvey Weinstein in a negative way, get a hold of me right away at oppermanreport@gmail.com. In fact, get a hold of me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. I happen to know for a fact, because I know all these lawyers are involved in these kind of celebrity cases and do these kind of sexual harassment things like that with these big celebrities, with the Gloria Allred and Lisa Bloom and all these lawyers around these high-profile cases. I handle the Tiger Woods thing, the Charlie Sheen things, Ashton Kutcher. So if you're into that, if you got any information about that, I know for a fact right now that people are lining up for lawsuits. So I can walk you through the entire process, okay, from start to finish, and develop the evidence for you, put you in touch with the right attorneys, but you got to be legit. As long as you're legit, you have some kind of a date book, an address book, or something like that of your experience at the time, and I'll help you develop the witnesses, get your story together, and you can participate in this kind of if you're a victim in this situation.
How can you achieve and maintain business growth? Harvard Business School Executive Education is now accepting applications for a new program, Driving Profitable Growth, taking place in Boston from October 25th through the 28th. This program focuses on business expansion and organizational growth strategies that can lead your company into the future. Learn more about this 3-day program for senior leaders by visiting hbs.me/growth. That's hbs.me/growth.